Nice. We good.
Hello, sweet internet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week, we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name of someone, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all with 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another Bree-filled episode of Straight Chilling. My name's Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 255, recorded on Sunday, February 23rd, 2020. Tonight, we're talking about the winner of the February poll pick, which was High Tension. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Astoria, Oregon, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
I'm a little ashamed of you, Bob. You're just diminishing the French people into a cheese. I just don't think that's fair.
That's
just
all
unkind.
I know about the entire country of France is Brie,
Well,
and it's delicious.
the entire country sure is delicious.
Everybody knows that wine comes from California and Brie comes from France. That's pretty clear, right?
Those are the two things we're all taught in public school.
Everybody knows this. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Coronavirus Stains. What's up, man?
What up? It's your boy Jejun Stains.
Jejun.
Jejun.
Not so hype on your own material right now, huh?
So hype.
Throwback. I'm glad you're not dead, man.
Not yet. Not undead Stains yet.
Stay away from those Mexican beers, all right? It's not safe.
I can't say no.
Find your beach. Am I right?
Quarantine it.
I think I'm right.
Find it, quarantine it,
and enjoy. Twist with lime. This virus is real relaxing.
Oh, shit.
God, going for the bottom of the barrel fruit there. The lowest hanging fruit you could find. Anyway.
Very low. Very low. Let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. This is going to be your final reminder. The March poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to talk about this March. Theme for March is Universal Monster movies. 3 movies up there for you to vote between are The Invisible Man, The Creature from the Black Rangoon, and The Mummy is also there.
Bob, how those numbers? The Mummy, the good one.
Not that mummy. Not the Tom Cruise mummy.
Wait a minute. It's not that mummy?
No, it's the original mummy. Sorry.
Tom's upset with you.
Sit down, Tom. Yeah, the Creature from the Black Rangoon is still winning. Invisible Man, just a little bit behind, and the Mummy's way back there, chilling, all lonely. Sorry, Tom.
Maybe you should have chose the Tom one.
Maybe, and then it would blast to the top of the chart track. We've already covered it, though. We can't do that. There it is. So you have until the end of the month to get your votes in. Haunt the vote. Also, in Patreon news, we have a brand new Patreon supporter. We got to give mad shouts outs to Leslie C. Thanks so much, Leslie.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
We very much appreciate the support. It helps us keep the lights on. And of course, as is tradition around these parts, we owe you the Straight Chilling salute. This one's for Leslie.
Slap my ass!
You queued me up too quick, buddy. You got to give me the space to play.
Slap my ass.
Here we go.
Randy.
This one's for Leslie.
Slap my ass!
All right.
Slap it.
Perfectly done.
Slap.
So glad we spent money on this soundboard so that I can fuck that up.
It's so easy, right, Randy?
It's too easy.
Slap. So yeah, thanks again, Leslie. Also, just another reminder regarding the Patreon stuff and things. We have a brand new tier open up. It's a $10 tier called the Hard With Us tier, in which you get all the previous stickers that we've been sending out. You still get to vote on the monthly poll pick. You get a new sticker sheet with 6 individual stickers on it, and you get access to exclusive bonus content that only dwells on Patreon, nowhere else.
How much is that tier, Bob?
That's a $10 tier right
Around here, that means big money.
You know what? Can we take a second? Can we run down the Patreon tiers here? What do we got? Can we see what we got here?
Yeah, so we already pretty much covered the 10, the 5.
Yep. So here, let's
you-
take a look. So if you would like to support us on Patreon, I have it pulled up here. We have 4 tiers now available in which you could support us. Tier number 1, From Satan with Love. This is our $1 tier, and this will get you your special shouts outs here on the Straight Chillin' podcast, as you have just heard. Thank you.
Your ass will be thoroughly slapped, or vice versa.
Tier number 2 is the Cooter Club. That is.
You also hold up. You also
Oh
get a
shit! I
special
forgot.
sticker.
You'll get a special sticker.
Sent straight to your door.
Special ass sticker.
Yeah, for the
bro.
$1
Special.
tier, you get shouts outs and you get a special Straight Chillin' sticker sent straight to your door. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Tier number 2 is the Cooter Club tier. This is $5. You will get your shouts outs. You will get your Straight Chillin' sticker. You will also get a special Cooter Club sticker sent to your door, and you are also able to vote in our monthly pick, where we choose a topic and then 3 movies to cover, and you can vote for which movie is your favorite. That is the $5 Cooter Club level. Now we have this new $10 level, and just to cover, we have special content. Let's see. So right now, if you sign up for the $10 level, you would get a Zombieland Double Tap minicast, The Witcher minicast, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Season 3 minicast, Horse Girl minicast, and Don't Fuck with Cats minicast, which are all available on Patreon right now. And that'll just keep building and building and building and building higher.
Yeah, that library will grow every month.
It's going to fill up quick.
It's gonna grow every month.
Every month. And then you get the Cooter Club sticker, you get the shouts outs on the podcast, Straight Chillin' sticker, this new sticker sheet, and you get to vote in the monthly poll. And then we have our quarterly $15 level. That is the You Pick the Flick tier, and that is we give out 5 spots every quarter where you could sign up for $15 and actually choose the movie to make us watch.
We can fix that quicker than God makes poor folks.
Yes, we can.
And that should be opening like mid-March, so you got a couple weeks before that opens. And they typically run out pretty quickly, so we'll give another reminder as it gets closer. But yeah, keep that in mind.
Yeah, that is our Patreon rundown.
That's our long pitch for Patreon.
There you go.
It's been a while since we've covered it.
It has
Yeah.
been, yeah.
Let's roll.
Yeah, let's do it. Justin, what do you have going on? You doing things?
Yeah, let's see what else. So I mentioned it a couple casts ago, but it just came out. I was lucky enough to be featured on the Forea podcast, and that episode was just released by them a few days ago. So if you want to listen to your boy Jejun Stains talk about his top 5 horror of all time with the Forea guys. Bob,
Ghost
do you
on
have
that
something
list?
to say? You have something that's
listened.
so important that you need to say?
I listened to this episode. The Forea guys are a class act, and they're great at what they do. Justin went on there, and he's trying to like hold this front on our show where like Scream is not a 5-star movie, right? We recently covered it, and he gave it a 1 star, which is absolute blasphemy, and he's trolling me, and I'm just falling into it right now. That's what's happening. He went on their show. Of his top 5 horror movies, one of them is Scream. It's not a
Bob,
1-star movie.
spoiler! Have you dropped a spoiler warning yet?
Man,
Aren't you being a little stupid?
Justin, aren't you being a little stupid?
Whoa, what nice redirect, bro.
Yeah,
Just-
come on, Bob. Come on, you're getting a little hostile here.
You're getting hot around the collar there, buddy. You just
Sorry.
gotta calm it on down.
I won't have my boys.
We're gonna get erected.
We're gonna get erected. Too late.
Yeah, so put Forea in your ear holes wherever podcasts are available. Those guys are great.
Yeah. Put them in whatever hole if you want, really, not just your ears.
Damn, I guess. Preferably your ear holes. But
I mean, that's between you and your God. I don't know.
It's really up to you.
yeah.
Satan must be stopped at every opportunity.
Randy has way too much power on
Yeah,
this show
you
now.
did this, Bob. You have made mistakes.
I gotta take brains back. God damn.
It was pretty good. It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was fine.
God.
Too much.
So
YouTube. We have a new video game review available for you to watch on YouTube. That is for The Blair Witch. No, Bob, not your favorite porno of all time, The Bear Winch. This is the
Favorite
video game
of all
that
That,
I played on.
That's the movie I want to see adapted into a game. That's for sure.
The bear
Oh,
wins.
I remember actually seeing that at your house, Rob, as a child that should not have been watching it. And
Rob.
there was like this big scene where they're like, they had like a genie or the witch was granting wishes or some shit. And one of the characters like,
remember.
I just want to be rich. And he was like all of a sudden in like a 40s style pinstripe with a fucking hat. And he was holding like the first issue of
Wow.
Action Comics or some shit. And I was like, a nerd wrote this. This is like, even then I was like, this is not written by hot people.
Yeah, so Justin's reviewing that over on YouTube right
Yeah,
now.
so check that out. YouTube.com/straight chilling podcast. I think that's about it. I think that's all the housekeeping that we have as far as I know. Bob, you have a new episode of Let's Get Physical Media, right?
Yeah, that's the last thing I want to mention. If you're unfamiliar, we have a sister podcast called Let's Get Physical Media, in which we talk about Blu-rays and 4Ks and the boutique Blu-ray companies that keep physical media alive. We got our new episode just dropped last Tuesday, episode number 5, where we're just talking about Scream Factory, and we pick a few of our favorite releases that they've put out over the years and talk about why they are our favorites. So if you're interested in horror movies and buying physical copies of them, check out Let's Get Physical Media.
So if slip covers really get you excited, you need to
Yep.
check out this podcast.
And
That
a
is
psychiatrist because
That-
goddamn.
Nah, we're fine. We're fine.
Yes, thank you, Randy. That's what Bob would have sounded like if he could have afforded a jet ski last year and was riding on
This
But that was
house.
a scream of joy, a terrified scream of delight on his Sea-Doo.
This house has been
Kawasaki.
kept. It
Yeah,
has
this
been
house has been
kept. Let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what have you been watching?
I have not actually watched a whole bunch. I finally got a chance to watch Toy Story 4. It was unnecessary and fun. That whole movie is just about Woody being a psychopath, basically. Look at it as Woody is mentally disturbed. It's a very dark film.
Damn.
It's all in his mind.
It's he's very codependent on fucking kids. I'll tell you that. That's in a grown man's voice. That's all I'm saying. It's weird. Anyway, I've been catching up on Better Call Saul, which is a lot of fun. People think that show is better than Breaking Bad. And I still don't see that. It's a lot of fun. It's enhanced by Breaking Bad, so I don't know how Breaking Bad could be worse. Anyway, that's a whole thing. It's an alright show though. I enjoy it, and Bob Odenkirk is fucking a very good actor as always. And it's like it still blows my mind because he's like such a silly comedian, and he's done so many silly like I don't know, comedic stylings in the past. So I'm always kind of blown away by that. And then last but not least, I finally got a chance to see Ma, the film
Okay.
Ma, which
Yeah.
I enjoyed. I thought it was a lot more unique than I anticipated, and a lot, I don't know, darker in tone than I anticipated.
Huh.
It focused a lot more on the Ma character than a lot of horror movies geared towards teens. So I appreciated the teens that were in the movie because they weren't like like they were over the top, but they were not so far over the top as to be like caricature-ish. At least not enough to like it was counterbalanced by Ma. I think what's her name? Spencer.
Octavia
I
Spencer.
can't remember that. Yeah, Octavia Spencer. Yeah, her performance is pretty fucking like awesome and subtle, and it is a nice counterbalance to some of the really big acting from the kids. But even amongst the teenage actors, they're doing a pretty damn good job, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just kind of like, I didn't anticipate a whole lot from that movie. Octavia Spencer was the biggest draw for me because I know she's a capable actress. I was interested to see what she did. And they gave her a lot to do. So, I mean, I was pleased with what I got.
I agree with you, man. That movie caught some flack last year when it came out. I checked it out in the theater, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was pretty solid, honestly. You know, it's one of those weird Blumhouse things that probably nobody else would ever make, and I'm happy.
It's not a movie I'd put on any lists that I can think of, but
yeah.
I don't regret watching it in the least. I had a good time with it.
Good for what it is, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Juice.
And that's about it.
What you been watching, Juice?
I watched this Japanese film from 1965, directed by what's his name? Kobayashi.
Mitch McConnell. Oh,
no. Masaki Kobayashi. Mitch McConnell. Not quite.
That's its own kind of horror movie.
Director Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, the famed Japanese director Mitch McConnell.
So it was from the 60s, maybe 62, something like that. It's a horror anthology, and it was pretty interesting. It's called I don't think I said the name yet.
I have not said the name.
Randy, come on, Jesus. Kaiden?
Kwaidan?
Kaiden? Kaiden. I think it's Kaiden.
Is there a W in there?
There is, but I think it's just like
that's just the pronunciation. Okay. I've actually owned that movie on Criterion for about 5 or 6 years and still have not watched it.
Oh yeah.
Just slept on it real bad. That's why I don't collect shit.
Bob.
I intend to watch Blade Trinity, goddammit.
Struggle.
Like a fucking moralistic
I watch
person.
what I can, okay?
Uh-huh.
Continue.
Nobody can watch Blade Trinity.
1965. So it was it actually won the I found it interesting because it's like a horror anthology, but it did win like best foreign film back in the 60s from the Academy Award. So that was pretty impressive to me. I checked it out. It's got 4 like pretty like unrelated stories. They all kind of there's like a couple themes that run through them, like seasonal. I think they each kind of have like a special like seasonal focus, and then like there's a lot of color. Aesthetically, it's like really, really cool to watch because it's almost like this like stage play, the way they do some of the backdrops and stuff like that. Like they're like look hand painted and stuff. It's really cool. It's very interesting too because I went down this crazy rabbit hole. It's like horror, and the translation is ghost stories, but they're based on these stories that this guy wrote in like the 1890s about Japanese like folklore. So they're kind of like folklore based. But this guy wasn't Japanese. He actually was he was born in Greece, I think, and then lived in the United States for a while, married an African-American woman when it was illegal to do so. He was like a white dude. Later in life, they divorced, like moved to Japan, married a Japanese woman, and like dedicated himself to like translating like some old like Japanese text. So apparently some of the stories he actually like wrote down were just like had always just been kind of like vocal, like they had never actually been like written down, but it's just like these old Japanese like ghost story like folklore things, and that's what the movie's based off of. So this guy wrote those in like the 1890s, and now it's like, even though he wasn't like Japanese or whatever, it's kind of like regarded as like, oh, like I'm glad like he put all these things down kind of like on paper or whatever, and like, and that's what he based his film off of. So that was
he's
like
the Rudy Ray Moore of Japanese folklore.
Yeah, so I went down this crazy like rabbit hole of like I was like I just want to check out this like interesting film, but like then I was like so much like history behind it. I was like, oh my god, this is like really like intriguing. So I watched that and I enjoyed it. And I've also been going back through the Castlevania series on Netflix because they said season 3 was going to be coming out, and I really enjoy that. It's 2 seasons, but the first one's only like 4 episodes. So total, I think there's only 12 between the 2 of them, and they're like less than 30 minutes. They're like 25-minute episodes, and it's a really fucking good series. I really, really enjoy it. It's about like Dracula. It's based off the game. I mean, loosely. I don't think it like follows a storyline or anything, but it
Did you ever play those games?
Dude, I only played the NES one, like legit,
Yeah.
like the hard old school one. I had like the cartridge and everything, but that's the only
Mhm.
one I've actually played.
I only played one as well. It was on Game Boy Advance. I'll tell you, man, I am not a fan of the Metroidvania type of games. I'm just not good at them. I'm very impatient.
Yeah.
And I can't map shit out for myself. I just can't do it.
I heard like the SNES one was like awesome, and I've considered downloading it onto my Raspberry Pi or whatever thing where I have all my old games. But
You mean purchase it off of eBay, of course.
Yes, I mean purchase it fully from Nintendo.
We're gonna get rich.
So yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Cool. I revisited Killer Clowns from Outer Space this week, which is a fantastic movie.
Yeet.
I picked up, yeah, whatever
Well
that means.
said.
I picked up the Arrow video release of the movie, and I haven't seen this in years, man. It's been a long time. I enjoyed it. It's very campy. It's goofy. Creature effects are pretty baller. I was watching some of the bonus features on the disc, too, and the Kyoto brothers are on there talking about how they started making movies back in the 60s when they were in, like, middle school. And there's, like, 8 or 9 of the short films that they made when they were in, like, middle school and high school on this disc that you can watch. It's really cool to see that shit because they're just making this stuff in like their basement and like just out and about with their friends, and they're doing like some pretty like hardcore like effects, like they're making their friends act slowly so they can speed it up later and like create this weird look. And they do like stop motion stuff with like dinosaurs, and they do like forced perspective and shit, and they're like teenagers.
That's
like,
really cool.
Doing this.
I could be wrong about this, but I think they were also responsible for the dinosaur and like the nightmare scenes of Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I don't know about that. Maybe so.
I feel maybe I'm spreading misinfo, but I think that's right, and I'll have to double check. But yeah, those guys.
That's some good features
They have
right there.
some-
That's worth a purchase.
It is
Ooh,
really, really
worth
cool,
a perch.
man. Yeah, worth a perch.
Worth the
But,
perch.
That's
yeah, they
much
have, like,
better
their
than
own-
a custom slipcover.
Actually,
Is one of the
it came-
bonus features Blade Trinity?
It came with a custom slipcover. Now that you mention it,
Good.
but yeah, they have their own special effects shop in Hollywood. They've been working on films ever since they made Killer Clowns. There's also like a really great feature about the band that did the theme song for Killer Clowns, which is like, I guess, kind of iconic, fairly iconic or whatever. It's this punk band called the Dickies, and like they had never done anything like this before, and they like take you through the process of like writing the song, like the release of the song and stuff. I don't know, there's just like a lot of really great bonus features, and the movie itself is baller and very, very fun. And I recommend you watch it if you haven't.
I was correct. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, including Large Marge and Critters, as a matter of
Nice.
fact.
No, okay.
And a bunch of other things, I'm sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Impressive.
change the subject.
That actually sounds worth the $30.
It was cheaper than that. Don't take your troll ass somewhere else.
You got to pay the troll toll.
I also watched a new release in theaters, The Lodge, a movie called The Lodge.
Is that a Nicholas Sparks book? What is that?
Man,
That's what it sounds like.
It is definitely a movie. It's about this family, and so this is not a spoiler. The very first scene in the movie, the mom, and so you got a family. It's mom, dad, 2 kids. The mom commits suicide. That's like how the movie starts. Dad finds a new lady, and he intends to marry this woman. and his kids are not really about it. They're not interested in getting to know this lady. And their dad is like a psychologist of sorts. And it turns out this was like a former patient of his, and the woman, when she was younger, was a member of a cult, and the whole cult committed suicide. She's the only remaining member of that cult. So he's like treating her, and then I guess as she grew up and got older, they formed some sort of romantic relationship. And now he intends to marry this woman. His kids know this, and they're like, this is insane. This is not right. Like, you know, I think we're at the point in the movie where he's like, I'm going to marry this woman. Their mom has been dead for like a month. So it's like, not at all. Yeah, it's just, it's
Sounds
nuts.
like Dad's a cooter.
Yeah, well, they all go to this getaway. It's a lodge in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. It's winter time. It's like set during Christmas, and they're spending time together. And then Dad has to like go away and tend to some business. So these two kids are left with this woman that they have no intention of ever getting to know and don't want to know. And just crazy stuff happens. And you're not sure what is real and what is not real, and whether or not you can trust these kids, or if you can trust this woman. You don't know what the hell's happening. But this movie kind of sucks.
Well, okay.
Well, we're really cutting through the fat there.
Wasn't for me personally. So I don't know.
4-star movie then.
It was pretty good. It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was fine.
Yeah, it wasn't really fun. If you're interested, I'd say wait for VOD.
It's not even Chrissy Orlando.
No, not for me. I don't. I was kind of surprised. I haven't seen like a negative review, and I typically, I don't know. Usually, like if the indie vibe is like, oh yeah, it's a really cool indie movie. Yeah, usually I agree. But I was like, no, not really about it.
What beer did you have? Was it flat?
You take your troll ass somewhere else.
It's a genuine question, Bob. That has affected your score in the past significantly.
There was way more going on when I watched Suspiria 2018. We don't need to revisit that. That's what I've been watching. That's all I got to watch.
But revisiting stuff's like all we do.
That's true. That's all we've done so far.
It makes people listen to our past episodes so they know what the fuck we're talking about.
Oh yeah, it definitely does that. That's 100% true.
We have to force people to go back and listen to our previous.
Don't you want to understand this
4 episodes?
Terrible joke. You gotta listen to every episode, bish.
No, we're talking about. I am going to revoke the rights from you, Randy.
Good luck.
You got too much
Good luck.
control. Soundboard rights gone for life. No, let's talk about the main event. We're talking about High Tension, kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, High Tension from 2003, directed by Alexandre Aja. This is a French production. The synopsis is as follows. Best friends Marie and Alexia decide to spend a quiet weekend at Alexia's parents' secluded farmhouse. But on the night of their arrival, the girls' idyllic getaway turns into an endless night of horror. Have you guys seen this movie previously, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy?
Yes, I have seen this previously. I actually saw this one in theaters, I think. And yeah, I've probably seen it like 3 or 4 times before this, actually.
Wow.
I've seen it quite a few times. I do recommend it, but with some caveats, as is typical of me. You're going to want to know that it's pretty close to it's got cousins in common with torture porn. There's just a little bit of it's new French Extremity, so it's got the gore. It brings the gore. So if you're prepared for that, then you're in good shape. You also have to know that there's some, if you're an American, there's some god-awful dubbing you're going to have to sit through at the beginning of the movie. But don't worry, because that dubbing eventually gives way to mostly silent, dialogue-free madness. So,
see, I always try to watch foreign films with subs now.
I tried to, but that was not the free option available to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have an option either.
I gotcha.
So I would have, but
I could have sent y'all a link,
They
baby.
love
You
you.
know I got the goods. You know I pay for things fully.
We're gonna get arrested.
Fully and legally.
All the time. Were you done, Randy? Is that it?
Yeah, that's about. I mean, I would recommend it. It's not for everyone. You may or may not love it, but I think it's worth a look. I think that whole genre is worth a look if you're a horror fan. But you just gotta steel yourself a little bit because it's not goofy fun fare. It's visceral.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Juice, what about you?
I had never seen this before. And actually, I've been a pretty big fan of the new French Extremity films that we've watched so far. This one's the oldest, I think, that we have covered. It's from the early 2000s, 2004. Is that right?
2003.
It feels a little
dated.
and
in
it
the States.
is okay.
Yeah.
It feels a little dated and it feels a little of that time as well. I know Hostel always gets thrown around as kind of a torture porn, and just some of the production choices kind of remind me of that a little bit, that kind of look and that kind of vibe. I would mixed recommend. It is brutal, and I don't feel like it's a necessary watch for the new French Extremity. But if you're just a horror fan in general and you're really trying to get into some more international stuff, then yeah, I think this one's definitely worth a look for sure.
Yeah. I'd seen this once prior. This was my second watch here. I give it a loose recommend as well. It's got some ups and it's got some downs. It's pretty heavy on the gore. So if you're wanting to watch something that's pretty I don't know, gut wrenching and keep you on the edge of your seat, it is pretty good at doing that at least. It's alright. It's alright.
It's alright.
It's alright. But yeah, let's go ahead and drop the spoiler warning and we'll get into the rest of the review. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right.
Hey.
So these
yeah, I'm trying to think about what to say about this movie to start it off.
Yeah.
So let's just summarize it at first because there's not a lot to summarize, but I think it's worth going through the motions.
Plot's pretty thin.
So it starts with two girls. Oh, go.
Yeah. These two girls are going to this secluded farmhouse. One of them's parents owns it, and they say that they're going to go there and just spend the weekend studying, I guess, in seclusion, which sounds boring, but that's what they're going to do. And they arrive there, they go to bed. This dude rolls up in a van and murders the whole family and then kidnaps the two girls. And
there's never been a more murder van than this van, by the way.
Yeah. It's murder.
It screams murder.
Yeah, if you saw it driving down the street, you would want to call the police.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, that's essentially the plot. The remainder of the movie is these two girls trying to escape the van, and they stop at a gas station and at a greenhouse and in the middle of the woods.
Well, I mean, that's the real short version. I mean, you have scenes where it seems like I'm sorry, it's Alex, and who's our main character? I forget her name.
Marie.
Okay, so Marie
has the dark hair.
No, Alex has the dark hair.
No.
Right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
No, Marie has the dark hair.
Yeah, Marie has dark hair.
No, that's not true.
I'm pretty
sure. We'll look it up. But so our short-haired protagonist, she's flicking the bean while this guy rolls up, and
while listening to reggae, which is
listening to French reggae for sure, because that accent on that dude, I can't imagine that was native.
Nothing will get you off quicker than French reggae. Let's be honest with ourselves.
That's built for flicking beans.
Dirty DJ.
Oh, I think Randy might be right.
Yep.
I went back and forth. Throughout the entirety of watching this movie, I mixed the characters' names.
Yeah,
she says she only calls the dark-haired girl Alex. I don't remember anybody calling her name, but she always is like, Alex, it's me, Alex.
Okay, yeah. All right. Dark hair is Alex, blonde is
blonde short hair is Maria.
Okay.
So Marie does so she's flicking the bean, and then this guy knocks at the door or whatever. She doesn't hear it because she's listening to French reggae. And the dad opens the door and just gets immediately murdered. The guy manages to get into the house, and she starts kind of like piecing together what's going on, and she ends up hiding in the master bedroom closet after Alex's mom goes down to investigate.
Yeah.
And she sees Alex's mom get her throat slit by a fucking razor blade, a straight razor.
Yeah. There are like 3 murder sequences in this movie that are very, very graphic.
Too.
And,
Yeah.
well, two up top that I'm thinking about. Anyways, you might have another one that I forgot,
yeah.
and then one towards the end. The mom and the dad getting murdered. Oh, okay.
There's a child. There's a
Yeah,
I think
child
he's talking
that
about
shot,
like this
but it's off screen.
sequences, though. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's
It's
off
like
screen.
you
Okay, that's what you're
watch.
saying, then yes,
as
you're
far
right.
as like brutality goes, yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there are
Yeah.
like 3 really iconic murder sequences in this movie. So the first one's the dad, which is jarring. So the dad opens the door late at night, and there's this strange man standing there, and the dad gets El Kabonged on the head with, I don't even remember what it is. And the dad's like
something
crawling
sharp.
up
The
stairs.
guy's using like a razor. Is he just kill everybody with a razor?
Not
Maybe.
everybody.
No, he
Not
shoots
everybody.
somebody.
Not
yeah.
everybody, no, but like,
Yeah.
he
He
definitely.
does have a razor. He kills his mom with a razor. We'll get
The
there.
mom is definitely the razor, but I don't know what he kills the dad with. I can't remember.
I will tell you right now. The dad's crawling up the stairs trying to get away, and the guy puts his boot on the back of the dad's head and pushes his head through the banisters on the stairs, and his
So
head
he's
is like
trapped.
stuck. Yeah, he can't get it out. And then he takes this like big chest on wheels or something.
He
and
gets
rolls
murdered with Jan Bura.
Yeah, exactly. A bureau. And like he rolls it by the stairs and knocks the dad's head clean off and just gushing blood. This shit is insane.
It obliterates his head. It doesn't fall off. It just kind of collapses like a watermelon at a Gallagher show. It's not good.
Death by bureau. Rough. The next one, which happens shortly thereafter, is the mom. So Marie is, like you were saying, Rainey, she's like hiding in a closet. Mom runs in and gets her throat slit, and the mom like walks over to the closet and kind of like sees through it and sees that Marie's in there, and she's eye contact. She's like squirting blood all over the freaking the shutters of the closet door, and then she falls down. And the guy, you hear him like cutting something, but you don't see what it is, and then he leaves the room. She finally comes out of the closet and sees that her hand has been cut off. She thinks the mom's dead, and she leans down, and she's not dead, and she like says a couple things. I don't remember what she says, but then
she just keeps saying why.
Yeah.
Well,
is that what it was?
Well, in my trans, so that was part of the good thing about having the subs. It was it just kept saying why.
Well, I had the subs on that. Like Becky watches everything with the subs on, so we had the subs on, and I don't know if it was just like a differentiation in the versions, but it didn't say anything when she was speaking that I can recall. I think she was just kind of like gasping more than anything. It seemed like, and that's the only thing. That woman doesn't get to speak in this movie, I don't think. like that.
Yeah, I think she offers him like dinner or something. Not a lot. She's just really there to get.
Which
murdered.
most people are, to be fair.
I was just interested in that because in so many of it's pretty uncommon to find a movie like this where like the victims that you have are part of your family or part of your clique or whatever, and you don't even get to like introduce to them really. You're just like, oh, we're at the family's house. You meet the dad. You're aware that there's a child and there's a mom, but you don't really speak to them at all. You just, the camera doesn't follow them in any way.
Yeah.
Well,
You're not introduced.
They had a couple scenes like at the beginning of it that made it, because I understand what you're saying, like where you want it to like have more impact.
They didn't have a dinner
because
or
this
have
is
any
gore or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a couple things where like the kid, he's like in a cowboy outfit and he's like waiting for his sister. He's like, no, like I don't want to take it off yet because she hasn't seen my cowboy. Like there's a couple interactions with the family before the girls actually show up that like,
but not so much
a little bit,
less
but
so.
not really with the mom.
The kid and the dad get to interact with the girls. I don't think the mom comes down. I think she's already in bed at that point in the movie, which is, it's just interesting that like she's just a character who's asleep, and then she's a character who has her throat slashed, and that's it. Not necessarily a critique, just like it's unusual.
This movie is not really about the characters whatsoever. Even the two main girls, we barely get to know really.
Well,
we know that they're
we know very, very important things about them, but not a lot of things about
not a
it.
lot. This movie definitely jumps right into the gore and like lives there for the majority of the movie. The little boy runs out in the woods and gets shot with a rifle, and he dies. So at this point in the movie, the whole family's dead. The 2 girls are left. Alex
it's supposed
is
to be
like,
American, right? Like it's a French film, obviously, but I think it's supposed to be in America because there's a comment about from Alex who's like, oh well, you know, I'm bringing some French girl home or something like that. And then it's like cornfields and shit. I think it's supposed to be America. I could be wrong about that.
Well, I mean, in my version, in my version, everybody speaks French. Like,
Yeah,
she
well,
calls
I
the
mean,
French-
yeah,
she
because it's a
calls
French
the
film.
police. Oh,
But like, I don't know. I could be wrong again. But I there was a moment at the very beginning, the very entrance to this movie is the 2 girls. There's like a dream sequence, and then the 2 girls are driving and they're talking and they're listening to music, pop music from France. But I think that the girl Alex, the dark-haired girl, is like, "Oh, I'm just like I finally get to introduce you to my parents. They'll know about my French friend now, or something like that." And I think that
okay.
it's implying that they're supposed to be an American.
I
in
didn't
America.
pick up on that.
no,
I don't know. I don't think it's
get that at all.
important, but I was just wondering if you guys could confirm or deny. But I don't know. We'll discover the truth about that.
Okay, I'll try to look into it a scotch, but
Yeah, I took it as like the French countryside.
me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so at this point in the movie, Alex is like tied down to a bed, and Marie is like trying to set her free. It doesn't quite work out. Alex gets thrown in the back of the van. Marie gets in there with a knife, waiting to like jump out and kill the captor, but he locks her in there, and then they haul ass down the road, and he's got to stop and get some petrol. And that's sort of like the next like setting of the movie. And when Marie gets out of the van,
hang on. We skipped one important scene that I'd like to bring up real quick.
Bring it up.
Because I think it's going to be significant in later discussion. In the opening of the sequence, we actually do see this guy. So the opening sequence, we have the girls driving through the countryside, and you see the cornfields, and they're like talking about like being young people and partying and stuff. And then we also get a scene of this guy in his like rape van. And he's like amongst the cornfields, or he's parked like on this like side country road. And he's getting a blowjob from some chick that we think, and he's like kind of going through his like sexual like deal or whatever. But then when he finishes, he starts up the truck and like starts driving down
dropping loads.
He throws a woman's severed head out the window or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's our introduction to this
Yeah.
guy or whatever. So and
there's
that's
also a
the film.
Barbie doll head or a doll head like on his trailer hitch, like covering his trailer
Was
hitch.
there? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things wrong with his murder van that we can go over.
It's
A lot of
obvious.
detail.
True.
So he just
Very
drops
true.
the severed head that now apparently has his semen in it on the side of this country road. That's real nice.
Pretty rough introduction, you know. First impressions, woof. But yeah, so we get to this gas station. There's this clerk behind the desk. Guy walks in, and he's asking him all these weird questions, like if old ladies passing through town ever stop and ask for his quote services, and like
she's implying that he gets laid by customers.
Yeah. Do you bang old ladies, old lonely women?
But this is after Marie runs in like discreetly. She manages to like get locked up in the trailer as well, or get put in the trailer, but he doesn't know she's there theoretically. So she runs out into the convenience store and is like, says something to the guy like, call the police. It's like clearly freaking out. So he's like trying to play it cool when this guy walks in, and the guy's saying all this weird fucking shit.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we covered that.
True. Yeah, the guy asks the clerk to go get him a bottle of whiskey or some shit, and as he's getting it, he takes an axe straight to the chest, which is pretty brutal.
A la Shining. A la fucking Scatman. He's Scatman.
Light of my life. He got cruthered.
That motherfucker got Scatman.
Yeah.
Shit. I want you smothered, want you cruthered like my Waffle House hash browns.
Damn.
All right. That means heavy on the ketchup.
Okay, great.
On the
Of
ketchup.
course it does.
Just FYI there. Anyway, so yeah, murders this dude, and then there's a bit of like a cat and mouse chase sequence throughout this garage, which I have kind of a problem with. We'll get to that, I guess.
There's problems.
So there's a huge twist at the end of this movie that really affects it one way or another.
Absolutely.
I guess, depending on how you feel. So there's a cat and mouse situation, whatever. The guy gets back in his van and hauls ass with Alex, and Marie finds another vehicle, and they have this like chase sequence, which is set to a Muse track.
Yeah, and the car she's driving is very Italian Job or some shit. It's like a muscle car.
Yeah, it's like
chasing
yellow,
the murder
it's
van.
bright yellow,
it looks like the fucking bride from Kill Bill.
It does. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's very, very like high. It's like this turned into a Fast and the Furious movie for like 5 minutes.
It did. It really did. Yeah.
So she catches up to the rape van, and does she have it out with the guy, or
she hides? She hides away.
She gets in her. No, he gets behind her, and he wrecks her. He rams the back
because he uses he formulates a trap. He's using that flashlight, and he hangs the flashlight up by a string, and she's following the flashlight, so he can get the jump on her, and he whacks her with something.
No, I'm talking about in the car chase. So at one point he rams the back of her car, and she like flips and wrecks.
She wrecks. Yeah.
And then
she's fucked up after that.
Yeah. And then they go to like the greenhouse area, and he's like choking her. She more or less dies. He like wraps some like thick plastic around her head, and then she gets a rock or something heavy and hits him up over the head, and like barely saves herself. And then
we cut to.
Yeah,
we cut to the police at that point. I think
because she called the police.
She called the police. The police are now at the crime scene at the gas station and are reviewing the tape. And the one time we get introduced to this cop, he is sitting there reviewing the tape, and the tape shows Marie, not a big fat white man, but Marie totally Scatman Carruthersing that dude in the chest.
Yeah.
And then looking creepy into the camera. So basically we got Shyamalan, we got all that. We got Shyamalan hard.
You Shyamalan me.
At a time where that was a big thing to do. And it turns out that, so this is a manifestation of her mind. That this is
there is no, man.
There's no trucker.
It doesn't exist.
We'll get into the nitty-gritty of that in a minute, though.
Yeah, we need to.
We have to.
Yeah, we will. So she escapes being murdered. She takes this post and like wraps a bunch of barbed wire around it, and like beats the shit out of the guy with that, and then suffocates him with the plastic wrap.
And then beats the fuck out of his wrapped up face, doesn't she?
She lays into him for a while.
I was also thinking of the fucking Elijah Wood movie last week, but yes.
Yeah.
So
we kind of cut to Alex, who has gotten out of the van at this point, and she's like running down the road. She flags down this guy who's just driving, and she gets in the car with him. And
she lets hang out wait, I'm getting these people mixed up. She lets the dark-haired girl out of the truck, and she's like, I saved you. And
like, she runs.
And she's like, what
no, wait, she's
like, so at one point when they're hiding in the back of the van together, she gives her a knife, and she's like, I'm gonna go try to get help at this gas station. Here's a knife in case like I don't come back or whatever. Yeah. So she's like, she saved her. She's like, yeah, good. I'm going to like take the chains off, take your gag out. And she's like freaking out. And she's like, you killed my whole family, you crazy bitch. She's like, what are you talking about, Alex? Like, what are you talking about? So she gets stabbed, the blonde haired chick, Marie. And then Alex
runs.
Ass, and then all of a sudden, like,
it cuts to Marie, the trucker. All fucked up.
She's
pulling a knife out of where she was stabbed.
Yeah, and then she
implying
gets
that her psychosis,
like circular saw that she's, and then does this huge chase
out of the murder van
with this circular saw, which was kind of cool. I like that.
It was a cool sequence because like then she's like, So she, in the form of the giant trucker guy, comes up to this car, which is like, because this car was pulled over like by way of Alex running out in front of it. It's fucked up and it's having a hard time starting. The guy's puffing his cigarette, trying to start the car, as the trucker comes around the corner and just shoves the fucking circular saw through the windshield and just murder.
I don't think that blade was that deep.
Number 3. Death scene number 3. That shit is insane, man.
It's a cool sequence, though, man.
As it's cutting into the driver,
splattering
Alex is sitting in the back seat, getting just lathered with this stuff. And I don't know why she doesn't like get the fuck out of the car and run away, but she doesn't.
Well, she does it eventually.
Eventually. Yeah, she's got this huge shard of glass in her foot. She pulls it out, and then this is sort of like the final sequence where like you actually see like the trucker guy for an instant, and then we pan away and pan back, and then it's Marie.
Because she's like, "Oh, I love you." He's like, "You don't love me. You don't love me." And she's like, "No, I really do love you. Yay!" Then it turns back into Marie, which gives Alex the opening to shove a fucking.
Well, they like make out for a little bit. They
kiss for a second, and while they're kissing, she shoves a what is that shit? A
crowbar
through
crowbar
through Marie's chest.
That Alex chick, God, she had that huge piece of glass in her like Achilles tendon. That shit was dry. Like, of all the gore that we saw in the movie, for some reason that like piece of huge glass sticking out of like her ankle was like driving me fucking crazy. I was like,
it's so visceral. Yeah, it's such a sensitive spot. That's so important.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's so sensitive, and
that's like a lizard brain thing. We're like, no, she can't walk with that now. Fuck.
God, that drove me nuts. Yeah, so she gets a crowbar through the fucking chest, through the guy.
Doesn't die.
She has been stabbed. She just got a crowbar through the chest, and
in the face with something too. She's been in a car crash, theoretically.
Fucking die. The ending sequence is her in a mental institution, and what? That's it, right?
And she's like, and Alex, in all her infinite wisdom, didn't have enough trauma in her life and decides to visit.
Yeah.
She turns to the doctor, looking through a one-way glass, and she turns to the doctor. She's like, "She can't see me, right?" And he's like, "Oh no, she can't see you." But then she turns and looks over anyway, and like gestures towards like as if she senses her there. Which, I mean, why would you put yourself? I mean, your whole family was murdered by this person. Do you really want to go visit just to see if she's doing okay?
Yeah.
Is she doing all right?
And that's it. Roll credits to Muse once again.
Muse again.
Thanks.
It was the early 2000s.
Starlight. It's not that song. Yeah, that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know when. Like, let's talk about the reality of this twist that they have. So this was in 2003, which I would call sort of like the Shyamalan realm of,
it was hot
movie-going
area of Shyamalan.
I know it's French movies, so may have had an impact, may not, but it's in that sort of realm where it's like a major rug pull that recontextualizes the rest of the movie.
It is, but this director,
but it doesn't make sense.
Alexandre Aja, I mean, he also did. I was looking, and part of the thing is like, yeah, it's like French, but I mean, he also did like the Hills Have Eyes remake.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly interested in American cinema and American horror films, at least later on.
Yeah.
So, but
he's made a ton of stuff.
Crawl. Yeah, absolutely.
Crawl. He did Crawl.
Which I enjoyed that movie a lot. But
yeah, I was just saying like around this time. So it's not like some like, I mean, I guess so. High Tension was 2003. Hills Have Eyes was in 2006. Piranha 3D 2010. Maniac.
Well, that's like they're ramping up because Hostel came out in 2005. So like that's the ramping up of torture porn and like getting that extreme visceral gore going or whatever. That's why he was given that job. That's not necessarily like
that's true.
I don't know. But he like it's not. I have a problem with how this twist goes off because whereas in a Shyamalan movie, for better or for worse, when he does a twist, he earns it by way of like using sleight of hand. This movie goes way beyond sleight of hand and just tells you things that aren't true.
There'd be like if you go back to a Shyamalan movie, you're like, oh yeah, I see where this.
This is actually a stand-in for that, and But that
this
doesn't happen here
movie,
somehow.
I liked the twist in a metaphorical sense, and some of the things
Yeah.
that they did bring up that, like, if you want to talk about it on a deeper level, then, and I'd like to, but then, you know, like you get, but yeah, they just like lie to you. There's no, like,
It's
no,
just a lie.
it doesn't
Yeah.
make any practical sense. So I like it in
So,
a
like,
metaphorical sense, but in reality, it's like, where's this van? Like, what, like,
yeah, exactly. That's the big one for me is like, so either the van or the Kill Bill car are non-existent. And it has to be one of them has to be real. And somehow you got to think that it's the rape van or the kill van because she pulls out a fucking circular saw out of somewhere. She's not in her pocket. Like, so
yeah.
how the fuck does that even happen unless there's like a van? And if there's a van, then theoretically there should be a person. Like, I just don't understand. Did they drive to the house in the van because it was just there for her to take if it's real?
And also
It
the
doesn't make any
van, like,
sense
significant, like,
logically.
key parts is like the fat guy, like when he has killed the whole family and abducted the girl, he cuts like her picture out of the family picture and he puts it up on his like mirror, and it's got like a
With
ton
other
of pictures on
victims.
there, like other victims, like this is like a thing that happens, like
Mhm.
he's
It's
killed
a
a
serial
bunch of
killer.
people.
Which
Yeah,
is something you could imagine
I mean,
if you're a psycho,
you
but you can't
could, but
imagine a van into existence. You
and
can't
even
imagine a
just like
circular saw to
the
exist.
opening sequence of like having a severed head like give you a blowjob, like what?
Yeah. You
It
have to meet
just,
more than halfway with this movie in order to
yeah, you have to
swallow that pill.
suspend. You've been lied to.
My biggest complaint with the whole reveal of this movie is not even like all the technical stuff, like did she find a van, you know, whatever. My biggest problem is like on a rewatch anyways, when you know what's happening, like there are at least 2 chase sequences where she's chasing herself, which removes any sort of tension from the movie because it's
The
not
rewatch
real.
of this is abysmal. I'll give you
kind
that.
of
And I've
is,
seen it
yeah.
so many times, which is what's crazy.
On the first watch, I enjoyed it way more than my second watch because it's just like this is literally a waste of time.
Also,
Yeah,
it
'cause then
doesn't
you're-
really make a lick of sense because, like, just talking about in a practical sense, like, okay, where did all this stuff come from? Let's just play the sequence out as we experience it. Like you guys talking about rewatching this movie. She gets out of the van and runs into a gas station. And at first, as a woman, says the first thing she comes in, she says, like, you need to call the police. You need to call the police. Okay. And the guy's like, whoa, he even calls her Mademoiselle, like, what's going on or whatever. And then the only reason that conversation stops from like, I'm in an emergency, you need to call the police, is because the fat man walks in and there's that kind of whole chase scene. And then the clerk behind the counter goes into this whole like exchange. That doesn't exist if she's
another person.
the person that doesn't. And then so she wouldn't go in. So if you think about how it plays out, she wouldn't go in and say like, call the police, and then be like, but first get me a bottle of whiskey so I can, which he is doing, so she could stab him with an axe. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense.
So you skipped something that's very important. So she would have come in and said, call the police. Then she would have, like, I don't know, done a lap and come back and said, hey, you fucking any old ladies in here?
Yeah.
Old,
So,
lonely ladies? Also,
so here's
give me
the thing
some
about
whiskey.
that. That right there, that is the reason that I think it's almost like there was an attempt made to contextualize this in a way where it could be understood. And that understanding for me was like watching this, like, again, for multiple times. I was like, okay, well, this guy's not real. So what's happening here? And my thought was, okay, maybe she just slipped into that personality, Norman Bates style, and is now saying things to him that based on the woman that he's seeing, he thinks he might get laid. That's the only, but it still doesn't make enough sense for me. Like, it's like this woman came in and asked you to call the police. She's bleeding and she's clearly traumatized. And then she's like asking you if you want to get laid and asking for like, you definitely call the police, or you definitely do something. You grab your gun immediately. You do something. And then later on, there's a whole thing where she grabbed the gun from underneath the desk, and somehow the other guy has the bullets and drops the bullets on the ground. Like, this is nonsense. And the thing is, like, we had some discussions of things that don't make sense in retrospect, like when we reviewed the movie Us. But I was willing to forgive those things because the metaphorical story, the subtext of that story for me was interesting enough and earned that those connections that didn't make strongly. It wasn't so explicit as to be completely unexplainable, like the car, and the subplot, the real story that was going on was riveting and interesting to me. And therefore, like, this movie doesn't really have that. It's a story of a psychotic woman who's psychotically in love with her roommate or her friend, and then for no reason besides I have to be the only person in your life, murders the whole family through some like insane, like impossible ninja skills of being in two places at once.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, we're supposed to be like, oh, so all this makes sense in a different way, but it doesn't make sense in a different way.
Doesn't
You
make
have
a
to-
lick
if
of
you're gonna-
sense.
if you're gonna have it so like off with what you saw originally, then if you're gonna have been completely actually lied to, you damn well better bring the heat with the story. But that's not a very strong story on its own merit to me.
The only thing that I could see like reading into this plot is there's like earlier in the movie when the girls first get to the farmhouse, they're talking about like their relationships and whatnot, and Marie calls Alex a slut or something because I guess she's hooking up with people or whatever.
Well,
but
she's
then Marie
being asked about her love life and she's being evasive about it, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where like, Marie is definitely in love with Alex and she's probably like buried that deep down, but maybe you could read into it a little bit further and extrapolate that maybe this is like some sort of metaphor for what happens when you take whatever your actual sexual desires are and just like repress the hell out of them, and like it comes back tenfold later. And of course, you're not going to be a murderer in real life usually.
The thing is, like, that's a perfectly legitimate story that could totally be told in a way that doesn't completely contradict itself, though. Story
that's
of
why
Us, on the other hand, I compare it to because that's a story I think kind of has to be unrealistic in some ways in order for the story, the specifics of that story to make sense with the metaphorical story. Whereas this movie, it's not the case. You could totally have done this in a way where it was just sleight of hand, where it was, you're showing them something, but it's actually something else. Instead of saying, instead of like showing these two things actually fighting, these two entities fighting with each other directly, I don't know. You could explain it in a way that made sense. Is what I'm saying.
It's so easy to see that this movie was like with Shyamalan. It's at least like a craft thing. Like that's the way he crafted the story. Literally by the end of this movie, I was like, this movie was made to have a twist. Like it literally was just for that effect. And they have to lie to you each step of the way just in order to achieve that. So it literally was just of its time. Like we have to pull the rug. Like, so
it almost feels like it was an afterthought. And I know it's not, because like it's clear that the story, the crux of the emotional story depends on that twist happening. But it almost like, because of the way it plays out so like slapdash and so haphazardly, it almost feels in some ways like they didn't plan it that way, which obviously they did. So what was going on in the writer's room when they were figuring this shit out, or in the writer's head? I just don't. It doesn't feel earned to have it not make sense, and it doesn't make sense. Which is, I mean, for most movies, you have to make at least an internal logic to your movie, and this movie doesn't follow its own internal logic, and it doesn't earn the right to deviate from its internal logic.
Yeah. Now, where I did find it interesting, because there were like pieces of it, was like the sexual identity, the sexual repression, because they did leave those trails. Like we do, like she asked about like the guy she was hooking up with last night. And she specifically says like, you left me on my own for like 3 hours. So she feels like abandoned. We see that she's attached to her. And that is when we see like either like right before or right after that sequence is when we see like the man for the first time with a severed head blowjob, and it is a girl with like dark hair or whatever. So like we see that these like sexual things like are linked in the way that she's like prying into her sex life and the way she's internalizing like thinking about her and things like that. And then we do see her like it's like kind of triggered when she sees her showering and she watches her and then she goes to masturbate or whatever.
And then in the heat of the moment, a guy comes up and starts murdering her family.
Yeah. So it's at that
You're
time
right.
where she feels like she's being taken out of herself because she's got like the headphones on. Like while her dad's being murdered, she's like masturbating and like has her headphones on and separated. So I mean, there are like these things that are like interesting, and the way that she like kind of internalize it. I like the idea that it's just like a very like disgusting, like the man looks and the van, everything about this like looks terrible.
She clearly loathes the internal person that she has in her.
Exactly.
If you're going with that route. But then I have a question that like
Yeah.
kind of follows that, which is, so at the end of the movie, we have that sequence of behind the two-way glass, the one-way glass, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And so what is that supposed to imply? Like, so is she supernatural? What is happening
that was
there?
dumb. Dude, I think there's just so many things about this movie that
that's a
feel
cheap
cheap.
factor.
Yeah, it feels like products of its time. It feels like inexperience. It feels like immaturity in like filmmaking.
Maybe they're
it's like
all
they had the
one
idea.
character.
They didn't have to justify it to themselves to
Maybe
make it
they're
happen.
what?
Maybe they're all one character. Alex, Marie, and the killer, all one character.
Oh God, that would be
well, then whose
worse.
family is it?
I don't know. She kills her own parents because she's been sexually repressed her whole life.
Also,
so literally nothing in the movie is real. You have to imagine a whole other movie in order to make that theory make sense.
Another thing is like they just lied to you because like when the fat white man walks into the gas station, the guy who works at the gas station acts like he knows the guy.
Yeah, and
he's
he
like,
looks
"Oh,
over
hey,
to the
how's it
side.
going?" Yeah, like I mean,
he looks over to the side when he's digging in the to get the booze out, and he looks over like subversively. Why is he looking subversively at a fucking Doritos when there's a person behind you?
They have a whole discussion like, "Oh, like how's it going?" "Oh, Sam, old Sam, you know." Like I mean, it was a very familiar. Like the idea was that like I see you often. This is like the road I drive and where I get my gas and shit.
That's another thing that could have been good sleight of hand, but it just like they slip in such major provable ways that it doesn't play that way. And like I can be down for that sort of thing. I can be down for like a rug twist. It's especially now in retrospect, it's not the most original thing in the world, but it would have been something. What they did wasn't a magic trick, it was a lie.
It was a psych.
Bad writing. Yeah. They showed you a whole movie and at the end went not.
Yeah.
It's loose writing.
Exactly. It feels like it completely unearns all the drama that existed beforehand, except for the one thing that actually like to me was like is the saving grace of this movie, is the most interesting thing, which is the gore. To me, the gore in this movie is actually right on the level that I appreciate, where it's like it's visceral, it's strong. They linger for a little bit, and it's absolutely gushing blood, but you are not like, I don't know, you're not living in it 100% of the time, which is what happened with a lot of the torture porny era. Or
I agree.
Even some of the new French Extremity. I think the gore is spot on in this movie, and the action sequences. This is a great action sequence movie.
It is,
horror.
yeah. I felt like the tension. Like now, I could see, like you said, rewatching it. I'd be like, oh, I don't give two shits. But in the moment, now at least like. But even like the chase sequence with the circular saw, at that point, like, you know, she's changed and you get to the car and stuff. So, I mean, that would still be fine, I guess.
But then at least you know you're dealing with two people.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they did that and then showed Marie and the guy fighting each other again, where you're like.
That scene works because she's not chasing herself. It's specifically the scenes where she's chasing herself.
Yeah, even in the house, because there's a whole sequence where the guy comes into the bedroom. He like checks the bathroom. He checks under the bed where she's hiding under the So that would be dumb.
How much of that is imagined? How much like in order for that sort of thing to work for me, you have to have kind of a 1-to-1 where like, okay, so when he was looking under the bed, that was actually her face looking under the bed, or when he was looking under the bed, she was actually in the other. Like there's no clear delineation of that.
Also, it doesn't make logical sense to where like this girl has access to the house. Why the fuck would she ring? Like, okay, you want to kill the dad and the mom? You could. It would be easier for you to kill them in their beds because you have access to the house. Why? Like, you don't need to ring the doorbell. And how would this tiny woman overpower this man? Like, it doesn't make any like those things. They just
Aren't you being a little stupid?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's poorly written.
Yeah, it's not that's the thing, and that's the thing that's always kind of bugged me about this movie. But it took obviously too long. I usually watch this movie kind of as a popcorn flick. I think, at least our version of that as horror fans. So for me, on that level, it works fine. I could throw this on and enjoy it. But it's not like a movie that, like, because of the writing, it bothers me more and more with time. Because
Yeah.
there's so many movies that have done very similar concepts, but have actually committed to them enough to where they, one way or the other, there's some sort of earning of the right to pull the rug.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't earn anything with that. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think we all have that big gripe, I think, with this movie, and it's tough to avoid, especially on multiple viewings. It really is.
Yeah.
It's incredibly tough to avoid.
Anything else before we rate this thing?
No, we're already doing it.
I'm not
Yeah,
specific.
seems that way. Randy, why don't you kick us off out of 5? How you feel about High Tension?
With every viewing of this movie, I feel a little bit less happy about it. I'm always impressed with the gore. The gore always looks great. The effects always look great. The action sequences always look great. The acting is fine. It's kind of tough to tell when it's in French how good the acting is, as just the same as it's hard to tell when it's people in a soundstage dubbing over it. So I don't know. I don't get a lot out of the acting in this movie, but some of the like the looks that the actress that plays Marie gives, and some of the, the turns and stuff, they're pretty good, I think. All that said, it feels like they had two ideas with this movie. One is, okay, we need to have a home invasion where it's just a total slaughter fest. We're gonna have this be a real gory movie. We're going from we're new French Extremity. We're going for that look. And at the same time, they're like, okay, but we're gonna totally do a Fight Club on this movie, where it turns out the lead character was also the bad guy the whole movie, and like that's as far as the thinking about that went. It's like, I don't know. We've already harped on this long enough to where I think you guys know where I'm coming from. For me, it doesn't sell itself well enough in those regards. So it's only half of a movie in my mind. It's only half of a good movie, and with that, I think that only makes sense that I give it a 2.5 out of 5.
All right, 2.5 from Randy. Juice, what about you?
Juice is not in at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and go. I didn't even notice that. All right, yeah, I feel similarly to you, Randy. The first time I watched this movie, I really, really enjoyed it. I had no idea that there was a twist ending whatsoever. I just knew it was like a gruesome French movie. That's really all I knew. So it landed pretty heavily, and I didn't, I guess, really reflect on everything that I had seen once the twist happened on my first time watching it. I was more just very much taken by the use of gore and the twist ending. And those two things alone were like, wow, that's a great movie. That's a really, really solid horror movie. I like a lot. The second time around, not so much, man. This movie does not hold up to rewatches at all. It kind of defeats itself, which is a bummer. I think it's a decent early film for Alex Aja. It's a great way to kind of set the tone for his career in a way. But it doesn't really hold up specifically because of that twist. And it makes a rewatch fairly uninteresting, or at least to me it did. Outside of the gore, I don't know. There's not a whole lot going on with this movie that brings me into it. There might be some subtext that you can read into. I mean, there definitely is some, but I don't know how well thought out or developed that is. And some of that might be lost in translation. These English dubs are terrible, and I definitely would prefer the subs, but we just didn't have the option. Justin somehow finagled that. But like you, dude, I'm gonna give this a 2.5, which going into this show, I fully did not anticipate rating it that low at all. But here we are. Juice, how are you feeling about High Tension?
Wow, I'm surprised. Because that's actually exactly where I had landed on landing, 2.5.
Damn.
Yeah. Because ultimately, this was my first time watching it. I don't want to rewatch it. Of the new French Extremity, this is definitely my least favorite. I've seen Martyrs twice now, and I want to see Raw again, and I've seen like Inside was my this is definitely the least of them. Like even reflecting back, I don't really care to watch it again. I would believe that rewatchability would be terrible on this, but for my first time, for my first ride, it was a wild enough ride to where I felt tension when I was watching it. The gore was spot on. I think like the overall designs, like I said, the guy looks disgusting. The van looks like you can almost smell it, and just it looks so gritty, and I appreciate it. It almost kind of felt like me a more thought out and developed Joyride type of killer, where we never see that guy. But I was like, this is the guy. This is Joyride or whatever.
It is Joyride.
So I was glad that they were able to do it, because it felt nasty and disgusting and
nasty.
And then some of the sequences were cool. Even if you take out just the whole home invasion sequence, and if you think about it as the girl killing the dad and killing the mom, that's all fine and good. And because then the ending sequence, when it is just the girl chasing her with the circular saw, that was still cool to me. So it's got good sequences, and the gore is spot on and stuff like that. So for the first time ride, 2.5 I think is appropriate. But yeah, I don't really want to watch it again, and I can't imagine it holds up in any kind of way.
And Dennis, what do you think?
It was pretty good. It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was fine.
Yeah, we're about the same.
The old Chrissy Orlando.
Yeah. Status. All right.
Chrissy Orlando of the new French Extremity movies. You know what? Something that I've realized is this is the third film we've reviewed this year in which we have given the exact same rating. Which is
almost
rare.
We're homogenizing.
Happens.
It's very, very rare. Yeah.
What were the other ones, Bob?
The other two were Color Out of Space, which we all give it a 3, and of course Scream, which was a 5. Perfect 5 from everybody.
Nope, that is Rob.
Scream?
I need to
Scream.
go in and update.
Scream. I wasn't even here for that shit.
I already did
Perfect
it
5.
one time where I needed to change the spreadsheet.
I licked her asshole a little bit.
Just
break
a
the
little
tension
bit.
a little bit.
Yeah. Just it's cool. It's
So
just
Bob, you are correct a little bit. Two times we have given it all the same score.
Oh man. Well, let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about High Tension.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, so for newbies, I'm so sorry for all the in-jokes that we've done all this episode. Also, this is our Rotten Tomatoes segment, where I'm going to give these two gentlemen the chance to try and accurately guess between 0 and 100% what the critics and then the users gave the movie High Tension, aka Switchblade Romance, on Rotten Tomatoes.com. So we're going to start with the critic score. There are 133 critics counted in this critic score. And I want to hear first from Juice. Juice, tell me what you think this movie got out of 100. From the critics.
Interesting. Because factoring in when this came out, I think is big too. Because this is definitely more par for the course for the time. I think it's probably received well. I'll get 65.
All right, 65. Not going to go for the 69, huh?
Not going
for the
I
comedy
think that's
number?
too high.
All right, Bob. Do you want the comedy number, Bobby?
No, I do think it's higher than that.
Oh, really?
I think so. I'm going to give it a 72.
Okay, 65 and 72, correct? All right, it doesn't matter because you guys suck at this. It's a 41%. It's a big splat on the Rotten Tomatoes asshole.
Yeah, we have been pretty off.
So yeah, here's the critics' consensus, which is so spot on.
Wow,
there
that
is
feels really low.
There is indeed a good amount of tension in this French slasher, but the dubbing is bad and the end twist unbelievable. 100% of that is accurate.
Yeah.
Well done, critics' consensus. I don't know. What else can you say? It's
Short and sweet.
short and sweet and to the point. Now, the audience, that's a whole different breed. We around here, we fight for the users, and we want to know what the users thought of this movie. There are 48,534 audience scores for this film. That's a lot. Rob, why don't you start us this time? What do you think out of 100 for those guys?
I would be surprised if this was lower than the critics. I feel like it's going to be higher. I'll just take 60. I'll go with 60.
60.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's going to be. I think it's probably people seem to like this movie. Or it's like it seems to have hype around it. Having never seen it, like I have heard about it a lot. So I'll say 70%.
70%. Okay, well, Juice is going to take it. I can't believe you didn't do the comedy number.
Sweep the board.
It is 67%. 67. So you're 3 off.
All right.
3 off. I did see that Roger Ebert gave this film a 1 star, which I thought was interesting. He wrote that these are his words directly out of Wikipedia. The philosopher Thomas Hobbes tells us that life can be poor, nasty, brutish, and short. So is this movie. Thanks, Roger, you fucking debutante of the ball.
Cool.
Read us some Kant, Ebert. Yeah, so there you go. There's the Rotten Tomatoes. Not a whole lot of big fans of this film, but the fans that it has are pretty virulent.
Yeah.
Pretty into it. And yeah, I would say that this movie does have hype around it. It is kind of shocking that it's this low.
Surprising. Cool. Let's go ahead and get into some trivia. Juice, do you have trivia?
I do.
Let's do it.
It's totally time for trivia.
Well, it's totally time.
It's totally time for trivia. So the camera used during the car attack scene of the circular saw got so much fake blood on it during shooting that when it was being used in another film later on, fake blood kept oozing from it when they were trying to focus their shot.
God. So they rented that from somebody and turned it in just caked with blood, I guess.
That's nuts. And maybe I guess they got all cleaned up, but then just to go to focus the shot.
That's unpleasant.
Also,
they're filming.
I
they're
like
filming
to
fucking
imagine,
Pretty Women, and they just have blood.
Exactly.
The Smurfs.
I like to imagine
the Squeakquel has got blood drips.
Nice rom-com or something, and then just all this fake blood comes pouring out.
I want to see that cut.
Yeah.
Release the blood cut. The Aja cut. 50 First Dates.
According to Alexandre Aja, the scene where Marie hides from the killer in the gas station restroom is a homage to a similar scene in Maniac, which I have not seen Maniac. Have you seen?
I actually haven't either. Rob's the aficionado on that, and he had to go take a leak, I guess.
God, what is with us?
You guys are both leaving me.
Hold our bladders.
Oh, God.
We're going to get erected.
We are going to get erected. So this was weird. They used 4 different locations for the scenes that they shot in the house. Even though it was supposed to be one location. Yeah.
I guess I could see that. It's not the most cohesive place. It doesn't feel like I know where everything is in that house. But you don't spend that much time there, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah. This is to clear up something Bob had said earlier, so let's hound him when he gets back. Oh, wait, here he comes. Hang on, here he comes.
Here he comes. This is going to be sweet. This better be worth it.
God damn it.
This better be worth it. It's better be worth it. Okay.
I saved this one for you. We just did a quick pause. The film is set in the south of France. Oh no, this is for Randy. God damn, I waited for you for no reason. The film
what the fuck?
The film is set in the south of France, but it was shot entirely in Romania due to budgetary reasons. This had a super low budget. The budget on this was $2.5 million.
See, Rob, if you weren't in the bathroom doing something unholy, you could have heard that firsthand instead of making us wait.
Sorry.
What are you doing in there, Bob?
Killing a giant spider is what I was doing.
Oh, really?
Around here, that means big money.
Big money.
Let's see. Yeah, I think those are the big ones. There's nothing else like super interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Well,
There's
it's
the
time
trivia.
to talk about cooters. We're going
Cooter of the
cooters.
week.
Cooter of the week. So we're gonna get a female cooter this week, boys.
I mean, yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about what constitutes a cooter before you're talking about female cooters?
All right. So cooter is the character type. We have to break them down. We have to hunt them. 5 points. They need to hit 3, boys. So we got smug arrogance, manipulation, sexual deviancy, overall patheticness, and overall attire. So sexual deviancy is through the roof, obviously. Through
This is a stalker story, so yeah.
roof. Yes.
Got it.
I
Manipulation. I mean,
think attire. This dude needs a shower. Well, okay.
here's the
how
thing.
do we? How do we put them together?
I don't.
Yeah,
I
it's all
think you
made
have
up.
to. I think you have to combine them because that's how she envisions herself. So
Yeah,
that's self-styled, I guess.
it is. And even the rape van. I mean, that like ties in.
Yeah,
But
like,
the look of
she's
it,
going.
the doll.
She's going to the top shelf of horror cliches for what this guy looks like and acts like. So yeah, of course she's gonna have some fucked up cooter-esque behavior wrapped in with her. Manipulation. I don't know if manipulation can count because I don't think she's playing herself. She gave her victim a fucking knife, so clearly she's not doing good.
Yeah.
It's like even within, like, obviously she's fucked up because she's killing people, but she's also not, she's not making a plan to do that. She's going through a thing that's causing her to do that one way or the other. So I don't know if you can call it manipulation, so unless you want to say that she's manipulating herself, which I think is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, because it doesn't ever seem like she's very like confused. So she's not doing it like, she hasn't set out this plan yet to infiltrate this house and abduct this girl.
It's not a scheme. It's like an internal reaction.
So not manipulation.
Attire. I mean, we covered that.
Attire.
So,
is she
She's not really pathetic.
I would say it's pretty pathetic to be that obsessed with a person that you kill their family. I think that's pretty fucked up and pathetic.
Mental illness. I don't know that it's pathetic.
Yeah, she doesn't come off as pathetic. I mean, like I agree,
to murder people in the name of unrequited love is pathetic to me, and on principle, I think.
To hunt down the kid. Now that's one, like, she killed the parents in the house. She like specifically hunted down the kid in the cornfields. That was pretty.
She did not have to do that. That kid could have gotten away and no problem.
Yeah. He wasn't causing any problems. Oof. Huh.
Just trying to get his unhappy ass away.
Let's see. Smug arrogance. The exchange that the fat man has with the guy in the gas station. There's some smug arrogance in there. Like he's kind of like sauntering around, with the talking about the sunglasses and like the weird, like, I bet you have like women in here all the time. Like I don't know, like the way
that's
it's
cooterish
like
behavior. I don't know if that's arrogance so much as it is like just a general skeeviness.
Yeah.
But also that's only from the perspective of her as a man. If you take it from a perspective of her as herself, from that dude's perspective, he's like, okay, this person's crazy, but I might get a BJ out of the deal or something.
Maybe.
So I don't know what's going on.
Damn, how wrong he was.
He was quite wrong.
So I don't know. Does she not hit enough?
Nope.
I think it's tough to say with somebody. I think to Rob's point, it's tough to say with somebody with that much psychological shit going on. There's not a whole lot of intention in anything she does, so it's kind of tough to say with any certainty that she hits some of those marks, like manipulation for one, even appearance, because that's in her head. Like she's imagining something because of her psychosis. She's not just like dressed like fucked up. She looks normal in her real life.
Sounds like this movie is cooter free since 2003.
Boy.
Bob loves to rhyme. Stain your
damn.
brain, right, Rob?
Oh my god.
Stain your brain with soju.
Cooter free since 2003.
Yep.
All right, we'll let you have it.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for
You
letting
can
me have it.
you can definitely keep it.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, we did it. Let's talk about some horror news.
Extra, extra. Read all about it.
All righty. So, yeah, we got some new news coming down the pipeline here. We got a new shot of Nicolas Cage in yet another bizarre-ass movie that he's in called Wally's Wonderland. So, it's... Yeah. He's going to be battling animatronic monsters in an amusement park in this movie.
People he's like the guy to go to for a B movie premise if you really want to get the ham factor in there.
He's becoming that, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's promised at this point. I mean, between Bad Lieutenant and fucking Vampire's Kiss, it's kind of tough to say that he's not going to do that with a premise like that. But I mean, if they take it even in fucking The Rock, I don't know. I don't want to get off on a Nick Cage tangent, but I kind of feel like maybe give some other people a chance to overact a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, I suppose. I'm down for this. I'm down for Cage being in this. But yeah, you might have a point. I don't know. It sounds goofy. It's Nick Cage, I guess, has described this movie as being like Pale Rider versus Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So
hey,
I thought you said Pale Writer. It's like, yeah, the Pale Riders on this movie got me something pretty good.
These pasty face motherfuckers.
These pasty dicks. They really got me something special this time.
Got me something special. Jeez. Yeah, there is no definitive release date on this as of yet. We just got some new stills, and I guess they finished filming, so it'll be coming out maybe later this year. I don't know, maybe around spooky season, hopefully. We'll see. Wally's Wonderland. Check it out. We also, it's not a new trailer, but I don't think we've discussed it on the show yet. So there is a trailer out there for a movie being produced by A24. It's called Saint Maud. And there's a new poster that was released for it anyway. I don't know. Have you guys seen that trailer? What are you feeling about Saint Maud?
It looked kind of like a Carrie kind of vibe is what it kind of kept giving me, honestly, a little bit.
Really?
You got just like the religious fanatic.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, when I was watching this trailer specifically, one of the things that popped by, now it's A24 and they've got a lot of stuff coming out lately, so I feel like this is maybe a little on my brain, but we did our 2000s review, and we were talking about like, what do we think is the most influential? And at the time, I was saying like, I think going forward that Mandy was going to be super influential, but it honestly looks like now films like Midsommar are starting to shape how people want to make horror films a little bit. They seem like very like dramatic, very like in-depth like character pieces that like we're starting to see come out. And that's what this kind of like felt like, because another one that's like I wanted to talk about maybe a little bit was the Green Knight. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, it's also A24.
A24. And see, that's why it's kind of hard, because they've been dropping trailers and they got movies coming out and they all have like a similar kind of vibe. Now, I mean, those seems like very different kinds of movies, but just like the dramatic like cinematography and like the I don't know. It just, and that just could be just what A24 is doing right now, and they just happen to be releasing a lot of stuff.
That is their bread and butter. I mean,
yeah, which I'm fine with. Don't get me wrong.
I think. I mean, I'm intrigued by this movie. It does kind of fit into the realm. Like they make a point of saying this movie's by the same producers of Midsommar, The Witch, and like I definitely got a The Witch vibe from this trailer.
Yeah,
you've got this sweet character, or like somewhat sweet seeming character that starts darkening up real quick and real hard. I think it's a pretty interesting premise where it's this a religious person taking care of a person that's totally who's dying, and also mocking the concept of like theoretical. I mean, it's what it seems like, an afterlife or a greater power or whatever, and just seeing how that react. Just like that alone is an interesting premise. But then the main character starts going through some shit, and she's clearly like not well in her own right. Like this could, I don't know, you could take half of that equation and it would still be an interesting movie. So I'm very interested to see how this shakes out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I haven't been it's hard to get me excited for movies with a trailer these days, but I'm pretty interested in this, and I'm looking forward to when it comes out for sure.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be released in April 3rd, 2020 is when it's hitting theaters. So yeah, it looks like, based on the trailer anyway, it looks like it's going to be some new hotness from A24. Hopefully it can hold up to the likes of, The Witch and Hereditary and all that. It definitely looks like it's in the same vein, at least, so I'm excited about it. Yeah. Last bit of news I have here, which is sort of like, I don't know, non-news. Just keep your eyes and ears open. Later this week, we're going to be getting a trailer for that new Candyman movie that's coming out in June.
Fuck yeah. Cool.
Produced
I'm
by
excited
Jordan
about that.
Peele. Yeah. Yeah, me too. I can't believe we're gonna see what it is.
Dude, we're getting all kind of mangs this year. The Invisible Mang, the Candy Mang.
Candy Mang, the Candy Mang Kang.
Candy Mang Kang.
I wonder if Tony Todd's gonna be in it, but I guess there's some debate as to whether or not he's going to be Candyman again. Which that'd be pretty cool if he was, I think. But I think we'll see.
We can fix that quicker than God makes poor folks.
Yeah,
true that.
That is true.
Just hire the man.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is going to be released on June 12th of 2020. So I'm sure next show we will have seen the trailer and we'll actually be able to talk about it further. But until then, keep your eyes and ears out. Keep them open for the new Candyman trailer.
Keep your eyes peeled.
Candyman.
Keep them ripped out of your skull.
God. Oh my God. Stop. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is my fault. I have failed as a host of this podcast. I apologize.
Per usual. Okay.
I am deeply regretful of my actions.
Oh my God, get to the point.
We have to change.
Would you smash?
Hang on, no, we have to change the score. I did not give a half star for the Yabo, so I have to end it a 3-star for this film.
Aren't you being a little stupid?
I am not changing that. It's already
Bob,
written down.
I'm going to change it. I have access to the spreadsheet. I apologize to our listeners.
God.
I know they hold us to a very high standard.
Here's the first time ever YouTube exclusive. Right here, the Necronomicon. That's where the scores go. It's
Bob,
written down, baby. Written down.
It's
In
also
blood.
on a digital
In
spreadsheet that I will be changing later.
In blood or Bic pen.
True. That's all we got for news. We don't have any voicemails this week, but if you're listening and you'd like to call in and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts for next week? I have not considered this until right now.
If you could be a candy, which candy would you be?
Which candy would you mang?
If you could be a candy mang, which candy mang would you be?
Who can make the sunrise? Sprinkle it with dew.
If you need any advice,
and a miracle or two.
If you need any relationship or financial advice and you would like the boys of Straight Chilling to tell you how to live your life, call in.
Yeah.
And we'll fix
we
you
are
up
giving
real
free
good.
advice that is legally not to be followed.
I like that idea. Like, not related to what the show is geared towards whatsoever, just general life advice, spiritual guidance. You got problems at school.
If you've got a real good "Am I the asshole" moment, please let us know, and we will.
We all
determine
have a
whether or not
real
you're the
good head on
asshole.
our shoulders. One of us is addicted to buying physical media. One of us.
And I licked her asshole a little bit.
Gives half star for Yabos. So we're real stable people here. We will set you straight.
Isn't that right, Tom?
God,
Tom's on board.
I'm not sending you any more bumps.
You don't have to,
ever.
buddy. I'm self-sustaining now.
I'm not your buddy, guy.
Oh, we're not going there. Their lawyers are too strong.
But yeah, hit us up. We'll answer all of life's questions at 904-638-3231. Call in. We'd like to hear from you. That's really all we got this week. We're going to be back next week with another show as per usual. We're talking about another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Matt G. It is a movie called Witchboard, which
Witchboard.
Never seen. I don't really know about it.
Is that Witchboard or Witchboard, Bob?
It is Witchboard from 1986.
Did you mispronounce switchboard, or is that the premise of the film?
W-I-T-C-H board.
Double V.
All right.
V.
Either that's about like a haunted keytar, or it's about an evil switchboard.
I hope it's a haunted keytar.
I hope
Me
so too.
Here's hoping. Genuinely hoping.
That's the future of cinema right there.
Yes.
And the past of cinema.
Yeah. So slam your eyeballs into Witchboard. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. On Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on our Slack channel, talk about the movie of the week, talk about TV shows, video games, toys, physical media, anything and everything, just let me know on one of those social media platforms, and I'll send you the link so you can join in on the Slack channel conversations. Check out Justin's YouTube videos, other things that we do. Let's Get Physical Media. Check that out. I think that's all we got right now. So until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Hey, Bob, did you do anything fun last weekend?
And I licked her asshole a little bit.